What's up guys, Epoxy here, and I'm finally back to bring you an insanely underrated Strand Warlock build for endgame PvE. With this build, you'll be able to have Devour on the Strand subclass, which is perfect because of the lack of survivability we have on Strand. Then matched up with the ability to constantly suspend groups of enemies, will allow us to easily go through Legend Onslaught and Grandmaster Nightfalls with ease. If this sounds interesting to you, make sure to leave a like and a comment to support the channel, and subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, I'll leave the dim link below so you can easily get access to the build. There'll also be timestamps if you want to skip to a specific part. Me and my boy Dragon spent a lot of time experimenting with this build, so I hope you enjoy. But yeah, now let's hop right into the video. Starting with the exotics that we will be using with this build, we have the exotic sidearm from the Warlord's Rune dungeon, known as the Buried Bloodline, matched up with the exotic helmet, known as the Nezarec Sin. This combo is severely underrated and not well known, and you will see why it works so well together shortly. First, looking at the Buried Bloodline, we see that anytime we land multiple final blows with this weapon, we will be granted Devour. But the higher rank combatants that we kill, we actually make it so one final blow will grant us Devour, which is huge. Especially when it comes to endgame content, getting a final blow on a high rank combatant will grant us Devour instantly, which we can keep refreshing for every kill we get, no matter the enemy rank. Then with the catalyst, we are able to weaken every target we hit whenever we have Devour active, so this is very beneficial in GMs and Onslaught due to the immense amount of hard-hitting adds that are being thrown at us. Being able to weaken them is going to help us out a lot. Then to top it all off, we have the intrinsic trait that fires double tracking bolts that leech health from targets. So overall, a very great exotic sidearm that performs very well in endgame content. And trust me, having this easy access to Devour is so clutch in many scenarios, and I've just had a lot of fun using this weapon. But now, let's talk about the Nezarec Sin helmet and why it fits so well with the Buried Bloodline. As most of us know, the Nezarec Sin boosts ability regen for every void damage kill we get, and since the Buried Bloodline is a void weapon, this works perfectly. While the Abyssal Extractor perk is active, we are granted 300% grenade and melee regeneration rate, as well as 200% class and super regeneration rate, and each kill will grant us about 2.5 seconds of that, but it can stack up to a total of 20 seconds. So if you are killing groups of low health adds like Thrall, you can easily get all of your abilities back, and since we're on the Strand subclass, you will see why this is so important. Like I said earlier, this build allows us to suspend groups of enemies no problem, and this all starts from the first aspect known as Mind Spun Invocation, which buffs all of our grenades, but what we care about most is what it does to our Shackle Grenade specifically. What it does is we are able to consume it and activate Weaver's Trance, which lasts 25 seconds and makes it so that anytime we kill a target with any type of final blow, they will let out a suspending burst detonation that will hit all enemies surrounding the target, obviously suspending them. And since we have so much ability regen with our Buried Bloodline Nezarec Sin combo, by the time the buff goes away, as long as we are using our Buried Bloodline, we will have our Shackle Grenade back right away, meaning we can constantly suspend groups of enemies endlessly, allowing for us and our fire team to easily go through endgame content where there are tons of adds standing in our way. So overall, a very amazing aspect. Then for our second one, we are using Weaver's Call to just allow us to spawn in 3 Threadlings whenever we cast our Rift, just for an extra way to put out some damage to enemies. Then of course, for our abilities, I already said that running Shackle Grenade, but match it up with the Arcane Needle. Arcane Needle is nice because it unravels targets, and whenever we defeat these unraveled targets, we spawn a Tangle. I love spawning in Tangles because whenever I have the Weaver Trance active, I can easily throw a Tangle ball at a group of enemies and kill at least one of them, and this will cause a suspending burst to proc and suspend everything. Then for our class ability, I would throw on a Healing Rift for some more survivability, and that's all for our aspects and our ability side of things. Now moving on to our fragments. The first one we have is Threat of Warding, which gives us Woven Mail upon picking up an Orb of Power. This is just for some extra survivability due to Woven Mail's ability to reduce incoming non-persistent damage for our Guardian. And since Orbs of Powers are able to be constantly spawned from us and our fire team, from supers, siphon mods, etc., we would be able to get Woven Mail fairly often. So it'd be nice to have this procced all the time. And then second up on the list, we have Threat of Generation, which grants us ability energy whenever we deal any type of damage. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but it is definitely noticeable because we're able to get our Shackle Grenade back all the time, allowing us to continuously suspend groups of enemies. And then for our third fragment, we have Threat of Mind, which grants us class ability energy for every suspended target we defeat. This is believed to have a 1-second cooldown and works in the following ways. Tier 1 miners grant 10%, Tier 2 miners and Tier 1 elites grant 12%, Tier 3 miners and Tier 2 elite enemies grant 15%, and lastly, Tier 4 miners, Tier 3 elites and higher will grant us 30% energy back. This is why I chose to use this Fragment. Because of the crazy amount of suspending capabilities we have, we will keep getting our class abilities back, resulting in us being able to throw out a bunch of threadlings from our rifts. But last and not least, we have our last Fragment, which is Thread of Evolution, which makes it so that threadlings travel faster and deal additional damage. More specifically, they will travel 30% quicker and provide a damage increase of 53% to minors and elites, as well as a 33% increase to mini bosses and bosses. So definitely worth using the Fragment. Honestly, threadlings aren't worth using without it, so definitely throw those on. You could definitely move some of these around, but these are the 4 I like to use. And yeah, that's all we have for the subclass. Now looking at my setup and stats before we move on to the armor mods. This is the main setup I'm currently running based on the champion mods that we have this season and the current GMs and whatever Onslaught has. I'm just running Unstoppable Bow with a nice little bow I have here. This is a Trials bow. It's honestly a bad one, but I'm mainly a PvP player, so this is the best I got right now. Of course, Buried Bloodline, I like to run a rocket launcher, but obviously you can change this up depending on what boss it is. It's just currently what I like to run. Nice little Apex Predator. And also in a game mode like Onslaught, as you can see from all my background footage, you can definitely get away with running double special with no doubt because of how much ammo drops you get. And then for the stats, I of course have high resilience and some nice discipline, just so we can get our Shackle Grenade back even quicker. And then a decent amount of recovery never hurts, and then you're set. But definitely do a high resilience and discipline and you're all good. But yeah, that's all for the setup. Now we can move on to the armor mods so you can get an idea of what you want to run for this build to make it all work. For the helmet, I'm just running a Void Siphon mod because our Buried Bloodline, whenever we suspend stuff, we do increased damage. So we're easily going to kill them with our Buried Bloodline because it does honestly fat damage. And then match it up with a special ammo finder just so our Buried Bloodline is constantly full. It has a pretty big mag for a special weapon, so it's pretty easy to keep the ammo full at all times. And then for the gauntlets, I'm running 1 sec of impact induction, momentum transfer, and also a bolstering detonation, just so we can keep getting some of our ability energy back depending on what we do. And then for the chest piece, I just put on some reserve mods depending on whatever I'm using. I just have void reserves for the Buried Bloodline, just so I can make sure it has ammo at all times. And then for the boots, I have 1 stack of invigoration, and then 2 stacks of innervation, just so whenever we pick up orbs of power, our grenade cooldown will be reduced, which is great because that's our Shackle Grenade. Our main goal is to suspend as many targets as possible, so we want that back as often as we can. And then lastly, for our class item, we have 2 stacks of Bomber, and then of course Reaper, which is the best class item perk. Anytime we use our Rift, if we get a kill after, we spawn our overpower, meaning we can proc all the other stuff that we need. And yeah, that's all for our mods, but now I want to move on to the artifacts so you guys know what perks to use, because I know I get some comments about that, and I really don't always cover it, so I want to do that because Strand is really good this season. The first thing you want to have is Horde Shuttle. Damaging unraveled targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a threadling, so you can have a chance of spawning in a threadling and also making a tangle upon killing them, which is great. And then next, Unraveling Orbs. Picking up Overpower grants Strand weapons unraveling rounds, so if you have a good Strand primary weapon to run with a Buried Bloodline or even a heavy, you'll be able to unravel a lot of targets, meaning you can keep spawning in tangles, which is perfect because obviously they do a good amount of damage. And another good one I can think of is Wished into Being. While your super is nearly fully charged, ability Final Blows will spawn an Orb of Power, meaning you can proc stuff like Woven Mail and also the mods you have on your armor, so this is definitely really good. And then lastly, Dragon's Bite. Breaking a combatant's shield with a Strand or Stasis weapon has a chance to suspend or freeze that combatant, so just another one that's of course good to run with Strand because that's our main goal of this build. Just having that extra chance is always great to have, especially if you don't have, your Weaver's Trance active. This will allow you to still be able to suspend some targets. But yeah, that's all we have for the artifact, and that's all we got for the build. Let me know what you think of the Strand Devour combo. I think it's actually pretty cool. I've seen a couple other videos about it, but yeah, let me know what you guys think of it in the comments. I think it's very fun. I know the Buried Bloodline's a little hard to get. It's a exotic weapon from, the Warlord's Rune. Once you get that, you can have fun with this build and just have a great time. Because who doesn't love suspending everything and just making your lives easier for you and your fire team? But yeah, it's nice to be back, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And until next time, peace.